Hello there, Fins, and welcome to another beautiful day at the St. Louis Aquarium at Union Station. I am here with Kelsey today, and
Hi.
we're doing another one of our breakfasts with our animals. So we had breakfast with coconut, we had breakfast with the otters, and now today we're going to have breakfast with our friends, the Rays. So Kelsey, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your role here at the aquarium?
Yeah, so I'm a biologist here at the aquarium. So my role is to provide animal care for all the animals that we have in the aquarium here. Primarily, I take care of these rays that we have here in front of us, and I also care for a couple of our animals behind the scenes as well.
How did you get into that? That sounds great.
So I wanted to do this since I was a little kid. So my dad actually was one of the people that got me really into this field, so I'm really appreciative of that.
Awesome. Well, we're super glad to have you at the St. Louis Aquarium.
Happy to be here.
So what kind of stingrays do we have here in our touch pool?
So we have several types of stingrays here in our touch pool. Some of them you may not have seen yet. We just got them very recently. So we have some Cownose stingrays here. We also have some of our Atlantic rays, and we also have some Southern rays. And the last two are some of our newer rays that we have here in this exhibit. So there's a couple different ways you can tell them apart from one another. Our Cownose rays are kind of smaller and are gray. Our Atlantic rays have kind of this A-shaped head. And our Southern rays are our larger dark brown rays.
So there's a whole bunch of different things going on
Oh,
in
yeah.
here. Awesome. So Cownose stingray is a funny name. How did it get that name?
So they actually got their name by, if you look at kind of the front of their head here, it kind of looks just like a cow's nose by the way that their pectoral fins kind of come up towards the top of their head and shape in like a dome.
It does.
Yeah.
So southern stingrays have the flat diamond-shaped bodies, like you said, and Atlantic stingrays are brown to yellowish brown on top. So that's basically how you tell them apart?
Yeah, a really easy way for the guests to be able to tell them apart when you come back and visit us here is if you look at our Atlantic rays like this one right here, they're relatively small and they're a little bit paler, so you can see kind of through their pectoral fins, which are like their wings. And they also have an A-shaped head. So A for Atlantic is the way that is best to kind of tell which ones are which. And like I said, those southern ones are just like the ones we have in Shark Canyon, and they're really large and dark brown.
Oh my gosh, I see some sharks in here too.
Yeah, we do have several types of sharks in this
Tell me
exhibit.
about those.
So primarily we have what are called white-spotted bamboo sharks in this exhibit. We also have one coral cat and one brown-banded shark in here. Our white-spotted bamboo sharks, there's a lot of them here in the center. They are nocturnal, so they do kind of like to sleep during the day, and then they wake up at night for their dinner. They get their name because they have white spots all over the top of their body, and they come from the Indo-Pacific region of the world. They are really, really interesting, though, because they are a type of shark that actually lays eggs. So they lay an egg called a mermaid's purse. And what they do is they'll kind of lay them in an area and they'll wrap kind of like these string-like things around things like coral to keep them safe and tucked away while they develop. So I've actually found a couple of our mermaid's purses in here. And you can actually see them in there. And they call them mermaid's purses just because they look like a little coin purse that maybe a mermaid would like to carry around.
I like mermaids.
Yeah.
So there's eggs in there right now?
So I'm unsure if these are unfertilized or fertilized yet, but we do have those egg cases there, and we have marked them with different colors to be able to tell when they were laid here in our exhibit.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, very excited.
So it's okay to touch the sharks and the rays as they swim by, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These animals all in here, they do have plenty of space to, if they did not want to be touched, that they can go out here to the center, they can swim away if they'd like, but most of them are more than happy to be touched as long as we're touching them with one or two fingers very, very gently on the top side of their body.
So they like the pets?
Yes.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Let's feed them, right?
Yes.
Because it's breakfast time?
Yeah. Would you like to help me?
Ooh, yes, of course.
Awesome. So got some gloves here.
We're staying safe over here.
Oh yeah, always. So these animals are totally safe to feed. You just want to be, gentle because they do have eyes on the top side of their head. So let them come to you. I have a lot of different types of food in here for us today.
Ooh, I see it.
They like to be fed things like silverside, which are really small fish, which is a lot of what our guests will feed whenever they come and visit. I also have some shrimp in here, and I also have some clams. So this is actually one of their favorite things to get, and they get these as kind of like a treat, which I can say on this TV, but I can't say it around my dog because she'll go crazy.
This looks like a great breakfast.
Yeah, of course. So feel free to grab whatever you'd like. And then, so what you'll want to do is just kind of put it between your two fingers like this, and you'll just kind of want to dip your hand in the water and just keep it real still. And they should kind of swim up to you. You can actually feed this Atlantic if you'd like. You kind of have to go all the way down to the bottom for them. And if you drop it right there kind of in front of her, these guys, like I did say, they are new. So they're still kind of learning. You can see that one get a little bit of food.
Got it.
So they do have their mouth on the underside of their body. And their mouth is a little bit unique in the way that their entire body is actually made out of cartilage, which is the same kind of material in your nose and your ears that makes it really, really flexible. Whereas their jaws and their spine is actually made out of bone. So they have a really special type of jaw. Like I said, it is made out of bone, and they will use that jaw to crush things like clams and mussels, which is why I have these clams in here. So they do like to eat a lot of things that we like to call bivalves.
Now, Kelsey, is this something that visitors can do when they come to the aquarium?
Absolutely, yeah. Whenever you come to the aquarium, we do love for our guests to be able to interact with our animals and be able to touch them and feed them. And we have wonderful guest experience hosts that will be able to provide all the instructions that you need to be able to safely interact with all of our animals, including our sharks here in this exhibit.
Ooh, I got that Atlantic one down there.
Oh, yeah. Looks like some of our white-spotted bamboo sharks have woken up as well, smelling all the food in here.
Oh, it's time. It's time to wake up for sure. Okay, you keep feeding them. I'm going to keep asking you questions
Absolutely.
if that's cool.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay, awesome. So what would you say would be their favorite thing for breakfast?
Their favorite thing for breakfast. I would say our white-spotted bamboo sharks really like capelin. It's like kind of like a little bit of a fattier food. And mackerel and herring, those really kind of like hamburgers for us, just that
Ooh.
special treat. Our stingrays in here love when they get these little clams in here. Like I said, they use those special jaws to kind of crush them into little pieces, so they have really strong jaws.
Cool. So if you're watching out there, let us know what your favorite breakfast treat is. We always like to hear from you about what you're eating out there. I'm sure it might not be shrimp. It might be. I don't know. You know, whatever you guys want for breakfast. So we're up here on the second floor of the St. Louis Aquarium, and this is the awesome touch pool, like we've been saying. But I heard you might actually have another really special type of ray in Shark Canyon. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So we have kind of these smaller rays that you might have referred to them as manta rays, but they're actually called devil rays. They're very, very small. They're called lesser devil rays, so they are related to manta rays in a way. And they actually get their name because they have these what look like horns, much like a devil, on the top of their head there. They're actually a type of kind of developed cephalic lobe is what they call them, kind of like the cownose has a roundy shape to his head. And those are really amazing. They actually eat in a very particular way where they filter feed, much like a whale shark or something else you might have seen eat like that. And so we feed them all kinds of special, really small things called mysis shrimp. We give them sometimes little pellets and things, and they'll swim through the water, and they'll open up their mouth, and they'll drop these big lobes down to help them capture the food, and then they'll open their mouth, and they'll just swim right through it. And we feed them about 3 times a day, and they get about 2.5 pounds of food per feed. Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Those sound really cool.
They're
and we're
amazing.
seeing those on screen right now. So I hear that only 3 aquariums in the country have these rays. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if it's exactly 3, but it is a very small amount of aquariums that have the ability to provide this incredibly special care that we can provide for them here at the aquarium.
So that's really cool. So once we open back up, you'll be able to come see these mobula rays as well as get into the touch pool and feed all these cool sharks and rays, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So as far as some of the rays in this tank, how big can they get?
So most of our Atlantic rays are about full grown, so they will get to be about 12 inches in disc length or width. Our southern rays have a little bit of room to grow. They can get to be about 3 to 4 feet across, I would say. And then most of our white spotteds are about at their full size as well.
Okay, and where would some of these rays be found in the wild?
So most of our rays here will be found in the Western Atlantic region of the world, as well as our white spotteds. Like I said, those guys will be found out in like the Indo-Pacific region of the world. So you might be able to see some of these guys out in like the Caribbean, the Bahamas, all down the Western Atlantic. Our mobula rays that we have out in Shark Canyon, they can be found all the way down to Argentina. So they're incredible.
So all over the place.
Yeah, so unless you can go on a really amazing vacation, these guys, you can see them right here at the aquarium, which is great.
Cool. What is this darker one in here?
That is also called a white-spotted bamboo shark. He's just a little bit darker in coloration than the rest.
Okay.
But like I said, we do have what's called a coral cat in here, and he's a really small guy, and he'll actually just swim real big laps around here. He's very fast. He's our fastest shark we have.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Now, do you have a best friend in here, maybe?
I have a best friend in here. I would like to say they're all my best friends, but I am a little bit fond of a couple of them in particular, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. So as far as the stingers on the stingrays, is it dangerous at all?
So our animals in here, we do what's called trimming, which is just like your fingernails. Basically their barb is made out of the same material as our fingernails. So we trim the barbs on our rays in here to keep them safe from one another and also to keep us and our guests safe. But it doesn't hurt them in any way. Like I said, it's just like clipping your fingernails so you don't actually scratch yourself, just the way that you would trim your dog's nails at home. So they are safe to touch in here. They're very used to being touched, by our aquarists and by our guests. So they are not harmful in any way.
This is all really great information. Now, as far as these smaller kind of fish swimming around, what are those?
So we have a couple different fish in here, these smaller guys. We have some reef butterfly fish in here, which are these yellow ones. Yeah, they're beautiful. We have some what are called sergeant majors, which have these black and white stripes on them. And we also have a couple pork fish, which is one of my favorite names for a fish because it's a pork and it's also fish. And they really like to kind of clean up anything that might be on top of an animal, anything that might have built up on them. So they're kind of like cleaner shrimp, but they're fish.
Oh, cool. So they all kind of help each other.
Yeah, it's like a little ecosystem in here. We also have some invertebrates in here. We have some slipper lobsters in here, which is one of my favorites. They're really colorful, kind of look like candy cane legs. And they also clean up in here. So they kind of have their own little ecosystem.
Oh, fun. So are stingrays in the wild endangered or threatened?
Unfortunately, these animals can be harmed in the wild. A lot of that actually comes from something called bycatch. So it's kind of like if you've ever seen Finding Nemo or Finding Dory and they get caught in that little net when they're trying to help their other fish and they all have to swim down. That's called a trawling net. And so all the other fish around them were silver except those two. And that's called bycatch, when you're trying to catch a fish and you accidentally get different fish. Stingrays can be a part of that because they are bottom dwellers. So sometimes when they kind of pull up that bottom amount of that environment right there, sometimes I think they like you.
I'll take it.
They'll sometimes get caught up in that on accident.
Okay.
So something that we can do to kind of keep that from happening is purchase sustainably caught seafood. And that's basically going to be making sure that when you get the label on your box that it says maybe Seafood Watch is a really popular one. And that just means it was caught in a way that's not going to it's not going to harm any way their environment or the animals.
I love that. Thank you for letting us know that. So they're kind of flapping and getting us a little wet. So does that just mean we need our food now, or are they trying to say something to us? What's going on here?
They are very excitable. I kind of sometimes think of these cownose of like puppies of the sea. They are very excitable by food, just like my dog at home. Anytime, like I said, if I say the word treat, she's going to come running.
Well, same.
And this is the best way that they kind of get around is by flapping those big fins.
Okay, awesome. So do you want to help us take some questions from some viewers out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Okay, great. So Freddie, he's 4.5 and he lives in St. Louis and he wants to know how long they sleep at night.
Freddie, that is a great question. These animals sometimes they'll just kind of nestle in the sand. So they're really pretty adorable in the way, and you might catch it sometimes on some of our live streams. These big southern rays especially, they'll use these big wings and they kind of push up all the sand and then they kind of suck water in and they flap their wings back over and they cover themselves in sand with like a big blanket. And that's kind of their way of cozying in. And I've kind of noticed our rays here in the exhibit doing that closer towards the end of the night after dinner. So they probably sleep overnight, and then once they see us, like you said, they get really excited. They kind of wake up and come out.
So it sounds like much like us,
Yes.
they have a big dinner,
Yeah.
and then it's time for bed.
Straight for bed. But if you wake up to the smell of bacon, like I'm going to wake up, they're going to wake up to the smell of shrimp.
Is that your favorite breakfast food is bacon?
I would say probably maybe like a breakfast burrito. Big
Okay.
fan. Yeah.
All right, you heard it here, guys. Breakfast burrito. I like waffles and pancakes, so
Ooh, those are also good.
lots of syrup.
I kind of sometimes call these guys sea pancakes, you know.
Yes.
Flat just like a pancake.
Well, I love that. All right, we have a question from Briley. She's age 7. Do stingrays lay eggs too?
So that's a really great question, Briley. So stingrays will give what's live birth. So they'll have tiny little baby stingrays. They're very, very cute. But skates are kind of related to these sharks and stingrays, and skates will actually lay eggs, just like our white-spotted bamboo sharks will. And that's kind of a difference between a stingray and a skate, is skates will lay those eggs versus the stingrays will actually have tiny little babies, which are just adorable.
Oh, fun.
They're
And
kind of
how
like small
big are the babies when they're born?
It can depend on the size of the ray. Like I said, these Atlantic rays in here are full size, whereas the Southerns have a little bit of room to grow, but they're probably pancake size, I imagine.
Awesome. So Mason and Remy, local talent here, radio hosts. Remy's 35. He wants to know, what music do rays prefer?
Ooh, reggae?
Woohoo!
That would be my best guess.
I love that. Yes. Great job. Thanks for the question, Remy. Jill wants to know, how many breeds of rays are out there?
I believe there are close to about 500 different species of ray out there. There's also something called a freshwater ray. So these are all saltwater rays. They live in a marine habitat, but there are freshwater rays that live in rivers and streams. And there are also stingrays versus rays. So not all rays have a barb. So that barb is the part that puts the sting in stingray, I like to say. So yeah, there's several different kinds of rays, stingrays, like our mobular rays. Those guys do not have barbs. So
Do we have a freshwater ray here?
we do not have we have a couple freshwater rays actually. We have what's called a Matoro ray, and he's kind of our larger one that you've probably seen down in River Monsters.
The black one
Yeah,
with the white
black
belly?
one with the white belly. Yes.
That one's always smiling.
Yeah, always smiling. Has the cute little freckles on the bottom.
Yeah. Awesome. So a quick shout out to the first graders at the South City Catholic Academy. They're having a virtual field trip today.
What?
How fun is
That's
that?
amazing.
Yeah, so
This is
thanks
a
for
great day
tuning
that.
in, guys. Okay, so Madeline and Colin, they're from Wentzville. They want to know, what are a stingray's predators?
So stingrays can be preyed on animals that are larger than them. Sometimes they can be preyed on by sharks, but a lot of time these guys are actually just can be harmed in any of those kind of environmental things that we can put out there. So even like pollution, or whether that just be the water being clouded up, or it could be plastics getting in their bellies, things like that. But it would be probably larger sharks.
What's a good way to kind of stop our plastic use? What's something we can do to help
Yeah, that's a great
stop
question.
that?
I would say really good ways to kind of stop our plastic use is to reduce it as much as we can. So if you have maybe a coffee mug or a tumbler or something like that to use instead of a plastic bottle, it's always best to have something that you can reuse over and over and over again. You can also use those reusable bags. I believe we have some here at the aquarium as well, which are very cute. And
I think we have
quite a
all
few
of those
them.
things in our gift shop, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're wonderful, and they're so cute, and there's different sizes and colors. I love it. Those are all fantastic ways to kind of reduce your plastic pollution.
Great. So Corey says her daughter Cam wants to know how a stingray breathes underwater.
So stingrays are what are called cartilaginous. Like I said, that means they have cartilage, just like splash zone
Gotcha.
right here. They have cartilage that makes them really flexible, so they are cartilaginous fish. Whereas some other fish are bony fish. So they do have gills just like any other fish, which is how they breathe underwater. And if you ever come to visit, or if you watch on the live feed, like I said, if you see them kind of come against the acrylic there, you'll see that they have 5 slits on the underside of their belly, kind of on each side, and that's what they're using to breathe underwater. Just like we use our lungs to breathe air, they use their gills.
Wow. Okay, so another question from Addison. She's 10 years old from Tennessee. Wow, thanks for
Wow.
joining us, Addison. She wants to know how long a ray could live.
How long a ray could live? It really does depend on the stingray and, its environment. So if it's in a very safe environment and it has a lot of options for food to eat and they're really nutritious foods, and it doesn't have a lot of predators, these guys can live up to, I'd say, above 20 years, but it really does depend on the species, much like many animals out there. It does depend on, what type of ray they are.
Okay. Colleen says, how do they communicate?
How do they communicate? That's a great question. So a lot of rays, in a way of type of communication and protection, they'll swim together. So that's kind of a way that they communicate, and they say, hey, we're all friends and we're going to keep each other safe. So all these cownose that you see in here, out in the wild, they can actually school in about a group of 10,000, which is a lot. And they actually call that a fever. But they can communicate with us as well. And sometimes if they're feeling threatened, they might kind of put their tail between us and them, or a predator as well, like a shark, like we talked about before. And that's kind of their way of saying, hey, I'm a little not comfortable, and I'm trying to protect myself. And that's a way you can say, okay, I'm sorry, and back away from them.
Cool. Okay, one more question. It is from Charlotte, and she wants to know, what do they feel like?
What do they feel like? I would say they feel very smooth and almost kind of slimy and rubbery, almost like a slimy rubber.
I agree with you. I think that Charlotte can maybe find out when she comes to visit us soon once we open, right?
And you can also touch our sharks if you'd like, and they feel a lot different. So you'll have to figure out the difference between how sharks and rays feel.
Awesome. That's great. Charlotte, we're going to save some shrimp for you when you come visit us. We're super excited. So thank you for joining us today at the St. Louis Aquarium at Union Station for our breakfast with the Rays. I hope you all had a wonderful time. As always, we're going to post a follow-up activity quiz, and then you'll be able to kind of make a stingray puppet. So you'll be able to walk around with that today. Yeah, we'll do it later. It'll be a good time. So make sure to follow the St. Louis Aquarium Foundation Facebook page. We'll be posting that later on, and then tune in tomorrow as we do another live quarantine stream at 10 a.m. where we'll kind of just show each different habitat that we have here. The jellyfish. Maybe we'll do Lord Stanley tomorrow. We haven't seen him yet, so that could be cool. So thank you for joining us today. Hope you had a wonderful time, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you.